Hey guys, it's Joe Killinger. Welcome back to the channel. You know, as the economy slows, we're starting to see people already get pretty creative out there. Last week we did a video on seller financing, and today I want to talk about loan assumptions. And most of you remember George. He's done a ton of our videos. If you haven't seen him, go back to the previous videos and check him out. He's got a lot of knowledge here. So George, thank you for coming in today.
Well, thanks for having me again.
You know, loan assumptions, we're really starting to see it more so in multifamily right now.
Yep, absolutely. And there's various reasons why we see it more in the multifamily asset class than other asset classes. We can touch base on that a little bit.
Okay.
And, you know, first of all, we are seeing it a little bit more because a lot of the loans that we had that were purchased were typically done at 2-3 years ago when interest rates were sub 4 or 4% interest rates.
A little better than now.
Substantially better now because we're a little bit, well, at least 200 basis points above that, closer into the 6.25 range for commercial loans. Now, one of the reasons why it's so popular among multifamily is that most multifamily loans, or a lot of multifamily loans, are fully amortizing, meaning that they carry all the way through without a balloon payment. They have a 30-year amortization schedule.
Okay.
Commercial loans, however, typically are for commercial properties like retail and office, typically have a 10-year due period.
Right.
So because of that, you don't see the opportunity as much because you're just assuming a short-term loan for a small period. Now, a couple things to consider when doing loan assumptions. One is it almost always requires a higher down payment because you know they purchased it at that time. They may have been able to get 70% financing or 70% loan to value. Now there's been an increase in the value of the property. That's why they're selling. So you have to make up the difference in that equity. Now it can still pay off though, and there's a reason for that. Is there's ways to structure and do the debt. One is the acquisition, but you can also potentially take out equity afterwards, and even on a blended rate, it's still lower. For instance, let's say you're able to get 60% LTV, and you want that extra 10%. Okay. After you acquire it, you end up getting maybe a second or equity line out and take that out. That is probably going to be at an 8% interest rate. But when you blend that 60 and that 10% from 3% and 8%, you're actually lower than if you just got a brand new loan.
Right.
Okay. More importantly, a lot of times you won't be able to necessarily qualify with higher interest rates. You have to worry about debt service coverage ratios. And if the income hasn't really kept up with the and your loan payments go up, you're going to actually be able to borrow less. So in some instances, very rare, but in some instances, assuming the loan, you may actually end up putting less money down in certain submarkets.
How do I go out and find somebody that's willing to do a loan assumption with me?
Communication. I think, well, first of all, I think right now a good listing agent is going to ask that of their seller, is the loan assumable? And I would be advertising it if I was it. I would get the details of that loan, what the amount that's outstanding at this time, what the interest rate is, and if there are any balloon payments and how long they have left on the loan. So that's definitely something as a listing agent that I would do, and I would actually promote that in my criteria. Now, if you're a buyer's agent and you're not sure because the listing agent hasn't put that out there, then I would ask them, does I see that easily found on public records, you can find out if they've taken out financing or a loan. You can tell even sometimes what type of financing based upon who the bank is. So when you look at that, you can then approach them and say, I see that the owner purchased this 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and they got a loan with ABC Main Street Bank. And I want to find out if it's assumable and what are those expectations. Now, you're still going to have costs assuming the loan.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Typically
you got to talk to the lender.
You got to talk to the lender. You still have to qualify for that loan because you are going to assume it and take the liability on if there is liability on. And when you do speak with the lender, one of the things you have to remember is that most banks, even though the loan is assumable and even though they gave a loan that's assumable, may not want you to assume it, so they may make you jump through hoops just to get there. Because they're the way they look at it. Why assume a loan at 3%, 3.5%, 4% interest when I can give a brand new loan at 6.25%?
Yeah,
exactly. So they're going to make you jump through hoops, but at the same time, you should still. It's pretty much the same hoops that you're going to jump through on getting a new loan, anyways. So, and same goes with the points. I mean, you're still going to have to pay a 1% assumption fee typically, and that's typical for most points anyways for a lender. So,
all right. Make sure you guys check out our previous videos. We touched on seller financing, like I said before, and make sure you give us a like on this video. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe.